talking with Jed Grant, the CEO and founder of PeerMountain in Luxembourg, but originally Jed is from California. Welcome, Jed.
Hi, thanks. Good to be here.
It's good to have you here. My name's Rebecca Hope. I'm from Block News, and this is an episode of Meet the Makers. We are going to talk a little bit about your interesting journey today, starting in the US and now having gone all over Europe, starting as a computer scientist, then having done your MBA, NATO, your own companies. It's quite a journey that you've been on. And now your biggest concern seems to be trust on the internet, having a safe and transparent place.
Absolutely. Trust is something I've been thinking about for a long time. I realized early on when I was an early user of Facebook and LinkedIn, I just noticed the other day, actually, my LinkedIn profile, it said that I've been on there since 2005. I was like, wow, that's a long time.
Wow.
But when I was on these things, I realized the walled garden, that you are the used. The people who think they're users are actually being used. The user is the company who's monetizing us. And that bothered me all the way back then. So I've been thinking about how to have trust,
Yes.
where you can own your own information and you can manage your own online presence and every digital artifact that you create. And that has evolved through my journey through regulatory technology, which is regulations, and it's a branch of fintech, which I've been focused on since 2008. And PeerMountain is sort of the culmination of these interests and the passion that I have for trust and security and self-sovereignty or libertarian ideals online.
Yes.
So that's sort of how we
you're
got
quite
here.
ahead of the curve. You started with this blockchain technology in 2015. So that's really interesting. That's quite a long time ago, because a lot of companies are popping up now, like in the past 6 months to a year. So why at that point was it so important? What were you seeing of the benefits of using blockchain technology?
Well, actually, in 2015 is when I actually filed the first architecture for what is PeerMountain today, the Peer Chain Protocol. So I had already designed it before then. When Bitcoin came early on, I realized what blockchain could do and how it could create this trust. And as soon as we could exchange value digitally, remotely with that, with a virtual bearer asset that is a digital currency, I realized that we had a solution here that could enable trust as well. And so I started thinking about how to design that in like 2013, concretely thinking about how to do it. And it was only in 2015 that I came up with the architecture. But to me, it was fundamental to have a system where you have a cryptographic proof. And it was obvious to me before the Bitcoin white paper was released, even that this would be feasible through public-private key infrastructures. But there always needed to be a centralized party. But my passion for decentralization and older technologies like Kademlia that's used by eMule, eDonkey, I don't know if you've used that or heard of it, but this is an older, like Nutella type decentralized network, peer-to-peer. I knew that there would be a way with cryptography to do peer-to-peer value exchange. Unfortunately, I wasn't the guy who came up with blockchain itself, but I was thinking along those lines. So when it came, I was ready to grab it, and I said, this is the future.
So let's talk about that solution and how you have architected PeerMountain.
Sure. PeerMountain is a protocol for trust. So it's an open ecosystem built on Peer Chain Protocol. This is a layer 2 protocol, so it's blockchain agnostic. We use any chain in a specific instance that we would deploy among stakeholders. And we write the hashes of the objects and the events that have happened to the chain. So we can record everything that's been done and everything that's been exchanged. So what Bitcoin does to money, PeerMountain does to information. We enable the exchange of trusted information online amongst parties as if you were all sitting around a table. It's that easy and transparent.
And how does that happen? Is that tracking data or sharing data? How does that really happen?
It happens through 3 components. They're all peers in this ecosystem. We have a mobile SDK where you actually own all of your data and you manage your data with that. And we have an enterprise or service provider client, a peer as well, where I can offer a service. So if I want to give you a service and you want to consume that service, you want a credit card, you want a rental car, you want a hotel room, whatever it is that requires additional information to be exchanged in addition to payment, we can make that exchange through you being the consumer saying, I own my information, I'm going to allow you to see this information, and me as a service provider say, this is the information I need, and these are the parties I trust, which is the third peer, is the trust provider. These are the parties I trust to verify that. So if it's an identity, it could be civic, it could be an Estonian EID, it could be another national EID, it could be sovereign, it could be a photograph of your passport that's verified by Jumio. It doesn't matter in our ecosystem which one the service provider and the consumer choose to rely on. We are providing the protocol that makes that exchange happen digitally and immediately in real time.
And so how is that integrated in already existing systems? Do I have to download an app, or do I? How is it integrated?
Exactly. PeerMountain is an SDK. So from a client consumer perspective, you would get an update to an app. So if your bank decided to deploy PeerMountain as a deployment to support their stakeholders, so it would be the bank, their auditor, the regulator, maybe other interest groups that monitor the bank's activity and how they interact with customers, law enforcement, etc., who needs to look at money laundering. So you would download a new version of that app, the mobile app, and it would have the PeerMountain SDK in it. So PeerMountain is a technology company, and our technology ideally will end up being very pervasive through many, many apps that you use, and your data will be transportable, and you own it because that wallet's in your device across all those different apps. So if you use your identity with your bank, you could also use the same identity information from PeerMountain with the car rental company on their app. It would be transparent, but it's all hidden behind the service providers you deal with or the organizations you deal with. It's not necessarily commercial. We are already in discussions with governments as well who could deploy PeerMountain for government services, and then for associations to deploy it, and even like a religious organization could use PeerMountain to allow congregations who need to attest to each other that they are this is a true accredited priest, or this person is this in their organization. I'm not really religious, but you could do that if you needed to.
So you, as a user, you wouldn't download the app and it would naturally integrate with anything else that you have on your phone, or any kind of websites you're accessing or apps you're using for, who knows, a car rental or something. What you're saying is it's in the backbone, it's behind the scenes, and it would be integrated with other already existing apps.
So you would use an app, and it would have a library of documents, and other apps that are PeerMountain enabled would access that same library. That's actually your wallet that's managed by your public-private key pairs that you own. It's very much like cryptocurrency. It's the same idea. Instead of simply maintaining a ledger of value, what we're doing is maintaining a ledger of objects and access to those objects and what has been done to those objects.
Mm-hmm. And why is this beneficial to the user? What can they immediately see?
It's fantastic. Actually, the benefits are on all the parties. So from a consumer perspective, a user in our traditional sense, you are able to, for example, scan a QR code that would give access to a service. So if you see an advertisement for something you want to get as a service or even a good, you could scan that QR code and you could just swipe in the things that need to be provided instead of printing PDFs, signing them, mailing them back, or scanning them. All of that kind of stuff, all the paperwork disappears. You can just do this digitally. It's like Tinder for services. You swipe in the things you want, you get the service. So to rent a car with PeerMountain, you could just walk up to the car you want. You would scan the QR code on the dashboard if it's in a free spot. And then from that, you get the service definition, which is from the car rental company that says we need the following things. So you give proof of driver's license, proof of residence, you would take a selfie, and you maybe take a video walking around the car quickly. Mm-hmm. All of that can be processed in real time, verify the license plate number, etc. And then once that's done, it can take maybe 3 to 5 minutes total, that process. You would get the car key in your phone as an NFC key, and with keyless entry, you could get in the car and drive away. Once you're in the car, you could have another code on the dashboard for additional insurance that you could then scan and swipe in the things you need to buy that insurance for the duration of your vacation. Mm-hmm. So these are the kind of transactions that PeerMountain enables. You don't have to wait in lines and fill out forms anymore. Yes. It's all done digitally, and you own your data and choose who to share it with.
Mm-hmm. So have you already established any partnerships?
We have quite a few. On both the tokenomics and economy side, we've done some partnerships. and on the, more importantly, the client side. So we're working with a large Swiss financial institution. That's really how PeerMountain got kicked off. I originally gave them a proposal to do a classic KYC thing, and there was a phase 2 on it that was the really visionary proposal where I told them, here's this thing I've been working on, and they said, can we just do that? Yes, we can. So PeerMountain became a real project, and I started investing in building it and the code that we've been writing since 2016 at that time. So we have them. We've signed a term sheet in the meantime with a German financial company as well that's interested in the PeerMountain technology. We also signed paperwork with another German auto company as well, and are working on a couple other very interesting corporate clients that have approached us. One of them is a multi-governmental organization that's interested in deploying PeerMountain. On the tokenomics side, these are very much more public. We've signed a partnership with Token Market. They are running the public token sale and advising on our token sale now. Fantastic. We signed a partnership with Bancor to provide liquidity to our token. We signed with Syscoin, actually, a development partnership that puts the Syscoin blockchain on our roadmap. As I said, we're blockchain agnostic, so we are actually also talking to a number of other chains, particularly ones that are focused on enterprise deployments, because that's where we see PeerMountain having a very good additional value add to those chains, because we're a layer above that provides this whole paperless workflow type solution that the business needs.
So much work has gone into this. Wow. Partnerships and developing the whole the technology, it's quite a lot. And so what are you hoping for the future?
Pardon?
What are you hoping for the future? Are you hoping to grow your partnerships or to develop
Absolutely.
the technology?
We are actively seeking more partnerships on both the deployment side, although we're not going to be ready to take on more deployments until beginning of next year because of the schedule that we've got now. So we'll be working with our Swiss partner later in the fall of this year to deploy the first production PeerMountain instance for financial services. We also are working to deploy a mutualized PeerMountain instance that will be used on crypto exchanges to do the KYC there, which is a real pain point on a lot of crypto exchanges. So what we've got is a fantastic solution that will neutralize the KYC across exchanges, so you can do it once and then have KYC done across different crypto exchanges, so you don't need to do that process over and over again. And those are sort of the projects we see getting into production for the end of this year. And then next year we have, as I said, a number of companies we're talking to and bringing in on that. Also on the other side of partnerships where we talk about the infrastructure chains. So I'm ready to sign, and we're working on signing partnerships to put other chains like Hyperledger, Zilliqa, et cetera, to put those on our development map.
So much going on. And so how big is your team?
The team's pretty big right
not
now.
Just
We're 7 people in the office in Luxembourg. I have blockchain people in Buenos Aires in Spain. There are about 8 of them across those 2 teams. And I have a mobile team that works with us based in Sofia in Bulgaria. And there are 4 people working on the Android side of things. We haven't started the iOS SDK yet. The Android one is in beta at this point, and we'll start the iOS one soon this year.
Okay. Has that been quite a challenge to coordinate that?
Yeah, it is. There's 2 challenges to deal with. One is time zones. We also have a marketing person in Singapore who works on the project on the ICO. So we actually have all the time zones covered more or less. And so time zones and coordinating all these things across all of those is quite a challenge. And the other challenge is the cultural differences. While we're all professional and we all are technically and professionally very competent, there are language and idiomatic differences that we deal with every day. We're going, oh, I didn't understand what you meant by that kind of thing. So it's an interesting adventure, and I really like it. It's very interesting to run a decentralized organization. It fits with our philosophy, and it's going pretty well. So it's pretty interesting.
It's always a challenge with the cross culture, but I mean, like you said, you're all professionals and you're all in it to make a system that's really going to be usable and change the world in its way in the back systems. So let's just talk about the ICO for a little bit and what you're running there right now.
Sure, we're in private sale right now. We've just passed the soft cap on the tier 1, and so it's going pretty well. We expect to do the public sale sometime very soon. The date has not been announced, but it's looking like it'll be in the early fall this year. We're working with Token Market, as I said, on that. We have some very interesting partnerships in the pipeline, particularly for the public sale. We have some very innovative ways to do the sale. Everything about the sale is available on our website. You can find it at PeerMountain.com. We have a Telegram group where people can ask any questions they want, and that all can be accessed through there. If someone's interested in the private sale happening right now, the minimum allocation there is 100 ETH, and they can email privatesale@PeerMountain.com if they want to have more information about the private sale.
Okay, great. So once they buy their tokens, they're in the system, and what can they do?
Yeah, let's talk about the tokenomics. So PeerMountain actually monetizes trust. So we have a PeerMountain token, PMTN is the symbol, and this allows the service provider to pay the trust provider for trust. So every time a certificate is issued, if I have a certificate that says my ID is good and valid and approved, and I'm not on the Interpol wanted list, etc., every time that certificate is used by a service provider that I interact with as a consumer in order to establish that trust, the trust provider receives a payment in PMTN. This does a couple of things. It allows us to do these payments frictionlessly across the whole ecosystem. It also allows us to do them internationally with no banks, no exchange. All the benefits of cryptocurrency are there. On the back end, you have a couple challenges you have to deal with that we've dealt with already. One of them is we have the issue of exchange rate and volatility. So there you use a ticker with a PMTN ticker, and you can adjust the token price of a service based on that ticker. So if you need to be paid $1, €1, whatever it is per use of your attestation, that can actually be implemented through a ticker into the attestation engine. So we've kind of solved that because it's more important to have a frictionless environment. There's a fixed number of tokens. It's limited to 330 million tokens have been issued, and they are fungible, obviously. And the velocity of that token ecosystem will accelerate as we onboard more and more consumers, as every consumer transaction will trigger transactions in PMTN. So it should be a very good ecosystem. The token sale is 40%, so we're selling 40% of the total number of tokens through the sale if it reaches hard cap, which we hope it will. That's 39,000 ETH is the hard cap that we've set it at. And there are 40% of the tokens are held in reserve by PeerMountain that will be used to facilitate the rollout of more and more PeerMountain instances across industries. And the other 20% go to team, advisors, legal reserve.
Okay, fantastic. And what do you expect to see in the future? What is the long-term goal here?
The long-term goal is really to build the protocol of trust. So if we're successful, and I think we will be, what we'll deploy is a technology that will be invisible but pervasive. It'll be everywhere, and it will become the standard way of exchanging trusted information. And actually, the patent that I filed in 2017, before we took the project out of stealth, is really defensive. So the idea there is to make this into a standard and to put that patent into a foundation like the IETF or Apache Foundation, similar, where they can steward the technology and the intellectual property into the future, and we'll continue to build the implementations of it for going forward. We've also come out with a very interesting alignment of token holder interests and shareholder interests. That's something that a lot of projects are ignoring. We published a Medium post on that just a few days ago, but we aligned the interests so that really we're driving all the value into the ecosystem, and the shares are simply a governance function for the tech.
Yeah. So I guess you can only go at a certain rate, right? I mean, you hope to get as many partnerships as possible, but what are the immediate targets? What kind of economies or markets are you looking at disrupting?
So the first area we're attacking is the low-hanging fruit. It's financial services, where there's huge regulatory requirements that require a lot of exchange of forms, and it's very straightforward for us to digitize all of that and make it automatic. The second industry that we would look at is travel and hotel, so HoReCa, as you call it, travel and hospitality industry, where there's also a lot of identity and other forms, terms and conditions, and these kind of forms are exchanged, and all of that stuff can be digitized. The third industry where we see huge benefits, and I have two very interesting approaches from different projects, one in the US, one in Europe, is healthcare. Healthcare we put as the third because of the regulatory challenges. There's so much government intervention and regulation around healthcare that it gets very political very fast. So really, we see financial services as the first area where we can deploy, and then travel and rental cars and all of this is the second, although they've approached us and they're on the roadmap for as soon as possible.
Yeah, please also target banks. And what else can I think of? This week I've wasted so much time with unnecessary, uploading documents, and it's the same thing every time.
That's the first one.
So frustrating.
Banks and credit cards and insurance. Those are the first ones we're going after.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, and it's a waste of time, really, especially when you have other priorities, and you cannot be on the phone for 4 hours of your week, just on basic things. So I think it's fantastic what you're doing. I can see how it's definitely going to make a change in the world, saving us time and frustration.
Yes, and on the other side, saving the business risk and reducing their costs, because they have a lot of people that are dealing with all this paperwork as well, and we won't need them for that.
Yes, use the people for other better reasons.
Exactly.
So that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Jed. We're talking to Jed Grant over here from PeerMountain in Luxembourg. My name is Rebecca Hope. I'm from Block News, and this is an episode of Meet Makers. Thank you so much, Jed, for joining us today.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's been a pleasure. Please join us on our Telegram group at t.me/PeerMountain, and we could continue the discussion.
Fantastic.